We are live, but I'm going to do what I always do before I introduce my guest. I am going to double check that and make sure that the web that Al Gore built us. Yep, we're live. We're official. Hi, everybody. I'm Clint Powell, and the reason I even say that this time is because I have two guests. So I'm making sure everybody knows who I am on my page. If you don't know who I am on my page, then welcome. I'm glad you're here. But I have done three videos today, and I've recorded a radio show. So I'm getting a little bit microphone drunk, just a tad. So I'm going to do my best to navigate this video because it's going to be a fun one. As if you've ever watched my page before, you have seen one of the people on the screen, Chasity Snowden. She is the owner of Fearlessly Authentic Coaching and a former World CrossFit Games competitor. Hello, Chasity. How are you?
Hi. I'm doing great. How are you?
And you have a new website.
Yes, I do.
We're going to talk about that because I want to send people to it. We're going to flood people to it. Also, and I'm going to read it from my phone so I don't mess this up. We also have joined us, Amanda. Is it Stegmann or Stegmann?
Stegmann.
Stegmann. Okay. With two N's, it made me question my public education for a second. But Amanda is a nutritionist and a dietitian. And are you the owner of Nutritionist in Boston?
Yeah, it's just me.
That's okay. I got it right. And the reason I wanted to bring Chasity on quite a bit to talk about all kinds of stuff, habits, exercise, nutrition, all those things. But one of the things when I was talking about bringing a different voice on, I said, why don't we bring another voice on with us? She immediately said, I want to bring Amanda on. And I'll just tell you what she said. And of course, she can tell me if I'm lying. You're super funny.
True.
True. You're a genius.
Questionable.
And you're super smart when it comes to food, nutrition, and putting good stuff in our bodies to get good results.
True.
There we go. I don't even know if we need to do the rest of the video. I think we've established that you guys are badasses and I'm not, and that's good enough right now. That's good.
All right, great. It was nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Hey, don't even. Are you kidding me? I wish I could have recorded trying to get us all together, because at one point in time when Amanda was clicking in, she had an issue on her end with a computer and it looked like the Blair Witch Project.
Totally.
And
sorry, I'm all wiggly. I was actually recreating it right now, just trying to get comfortable.
Well, you're also, I'm going to just say, what, close to 6 months pregnant?
True.
Or do you call it 26 weeks? Which one do you use?
A little bit of both. I have extra chin, a little bit I'm getting.
Hey, I must be pregnant too, because look, I got an extra chin too.
Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations. We're both, I'm due soon too. That's awesome. Chastity's been helping me with that though. So I'm getting back to fighting shape. All right. So I've got some questions written down. And before we do, everybody knows a little bit more about Chasity. Amanda, it's your first time on with me. I said you're a nutritionist and a dietitian. Tell people exactly what you do on a daily basis, what you specialize in, and kind of how you got there. Just take a minute or so and tell us that.
What I do on a daily basis right now, I usually start my morning off with Wife Swap. Then I switch to Netflix and do some sort of documentary, a bowl of cereal.
Have you tried Peaky Blinders?
Not yet. All right. So before COVID, professionally, I got my master's degree in nutrition from Northeastern, and my specialty was obesity and eating disorders. And then I was hired at an HIV center in Boston. It's called the Boston Living Center. It's a really special place. It's a community center for people with HIV, biggest one in New England. So I was their manager of nutritional services and did tons of classes and tons of cooking classes, walking groups, a lot of community outreach. I would go to like recovery homes and stuff and do nutrition groups with people who were recovering from addiction. Then I finally was like, I need to get this done, sat for the registered dietitian exam, got licensed. And since Chassie and I had worked together before, and I saw like coaching was a thing. I didn't even know coaching was a thing, and was like, I could do something like this. So I ended up deciding to take the plunge and start my own practice. So I did some work with Boston University, their pediatric dental school. I was like a consultant on a grant project. So I did a lot of work with kids, a lot of community outreach and like connecting them to community-based resources, doubling their food stamp money, easy habits to change at home. You know, when kids come in eating like hot fries and Kool-Aid and they're one. So I'm like, here's some other things your kids can try. And yeah, so started my own practice around November. I can take insurance now. I'm a provider with several insurance companies. And Chasity was kind enough to ask me to continue on, like kind of collaborating and consulting with her. And now it's COVID, so I just sit on my ass all the time and marinate this baby and eat sleeves of Girl Scout cookies that I keep in the freezer.
Well, I still think you should try Peaky Blinders on Netflix.
Okay.
It's a good series. But let me ask the follow-up before I give Chasity the floor a little bit. In this kind of field, I normally have, when I ask this, I'm usually surprised by the answers. What pulled you into the food part of it? I mean, because a dietitian and nutritionist, that's a very specific thing. And it's usually when a kid grows up, they don't go, you know, I want to be a nutritionist. What pulled you there? What got you into it?
That's a really good question. As far as I can, as like long back as I can remember, I just always was interested in food science. You know, eating it too, obviously, but like the science part, I just found interesting. So I like biology. I like science, what actually happens in your body. And being totally honest, also have a rather giving heart and wanted to help. So I did, my undergrad was psych. And I was like, I want to help, until I did and realized what it looked like to work in residential programs with teenage girls in DCF custody. And they like throw knives at you and try to light things on fire and stuff. And I was like, no, I'm good. And decided I'll pursue that other interest I've always had, and like got my master's in nutrition.
Well, I'm glad you said that. And that's an honest question. I mean, honest answer. And I appreciate it. But the follow-up to that is when you started working in the HIV arena.
Yes.
Most people would not associate it with food being an important part of that.
Oh, yeah, that's fair.
So I'm asking, my question is on that. I find that a little, not surprising, but intriguing. Did you see a difference when you start helping people on their, did you even help them with that? Or was it just help them be healthier to cope with that disease?
It kind of depended on the person I was working with. So if I could like kind of describe the culture of the center now versus what it was like 25 years ago. 25 years ago, that a lot of, when it was new, the nutritional counseling mattered because you were being attacked by this virus. And there weren't a lot of medications, and the people would want like real good nutrition, specific foods to help them, because there's certain vitamins and minerals that are imperative. You need higher amounts of protein when you're suffering from wasting syndrome. If these meds would deteriorate your liver and your kidneys, then things like phosphorus matters, and looking at blood markers. Fast forward now, when it's the population that's becoming infected now are generally getting it from like intravenous drug use. And the people we were serving were chronically homeless, very mentally ill, and living off food stamps and in homeless shelters. So instead of getting them advice like on a more detailed level, it's literally just like, hey, consider a vegetable, you know?
Yeah.
Right. Or like you come in drinking Monster and Red Bull and you're like, just try water sometime to stay hydrated. So,
well, the reason I think it's intriguing, and the reason I actually went down that rabbit hole a little bit, is if it's important for that, think of how important it is just for us in everyday life.
Totally.
Because, well, when you say HIV, everybody goes, oh, that's a disease. But we forget that, oh, I love it when you don't turn your phone off, Clint. But we forget that, guess what? Chronic inflamed joints is a problem too. Diabetes is a problem. Heart issues is an issue. Mental health, all of these things can be directly impacted by the food we put in our bodies. And I've learned a lot of that from Chasity. And so, Chasity, how did you end up, or how do you guys work together? Do y'all work together, and how does that relationship work a little bit?
basically, like, I am a nutrition coach. I'm not a dietitian, and she is. Like, I didn't go to school for that. I have a certification. I have a bachelor's degree in exercise and health science and did like nutrition classes. So my bachelor's inside of exercise and health. So I'm a health and nutrition coach. And then I got a certification in nutrition coaching. She went to like full school to like study food. And she legally can write meal plans. And when I have a client that comes to me, well, pretty much any client these days, I want to do a consult with her so she can look at, because these days everybody's on some sort of medication. So she looks at their medications. She sees if they need a meal plan. She sees, we consult on like, okay, what's the direction I should take with this client macronutrient wise? But she'll go into the things about sodium and potassium and how different foods can affect the medication that they're on that I do not know. It's awesome. So every time I get to consult with her, with my clients, I learn something. And then I take my clients that consult with her and then I coach them along. And if I have issues, that if they're not getting the results that I want, then I continue to go back to her to consult as the like expert inside all the things that I don't know, which is awesome because I can sit there and be like, I don't know this, but I have an expert that knows.
You know what's sad but true? I'll just speak for the masses out here to two experts. We change our diet, right? I'll talk with Amanda. I'll talk with Chasity, and I'm going to change my diet. I'm going to cut out some salt. I'm going to cut out carbs. And 2 days later, I'm frustrated because it's not worked. And in reality, and I'm sure you both have heard this, in reality, I spent 52 years making this body. And all of a sudden in 48 hours, I'm like, why are my joints not feeling better? I quit eating processed sugar. Screw it. I'm going to go back to the donuts. But that's our attitude. It's the immediate gratification attitude. So we'll pull it out of the intense stuff that you were doing, like at HIV clinics or other places, just in general. Amanda, what's our problem?
Oh my God.
What is our dietary problem? Is it carbs? Are carbs the bad guy? Because I've been told carbs are the bad guy.
Yeah. Who told you that?
Not Chasity.
Okay. In general, I think our problem is too much. Period. Too much sugar and too much salt. Really too much and too much food. So you're saying too much carbohydrates, which is a very common fallacy. A lot of people think carbs are bad. And then you ask them what's a carb and they'll say like pasta and bread. And then you might mention like, well, what about broccoli and spinach? And it's sort of mind blowing. Like, that's a carb? Yeah. That's a carb too. So it's really the sources of carbohydrates. I mean, Coca-Cola is a carb, but like sugar is different than a carbohydrate. Like they're under the same umbrella. Sugar is a carb, but not all carbs are sugar. I hope I said that right.
Yeah, I'm sure you did. I just know this. When people told me that I had to cut out bread, I got really mad. Because I love bread. And of course, I've learned from Chasity that you don't have to cut out bread. If you do, a certain plan and you count your macros and know you can have bread. You can have all the bread you want. It just may be that's all you can have.
Right. In my experience, like, and even some of the, like how Chasity and I first met, well, not her and I, but watching other people give some advice. I mean, you want to work with somebody who is smart, who knows what they're doing and would never tell you to do something super extreme.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how you can feel confident in like trusting someone is they don't tell you to do something very, very extreme that seems a little abnormal. So I've seen people like cut carbs or recommend their clients cut carbs so significantly that I look and I'm like, they're going to die.
Oh, they're going to be cranky. They're going to be mad.
Possible. Yeah. So like the sugar comment, right? For anyone interested in like a little science lesson, picture Legos, your kids' Legos, right? A complex carbohydrate like broccoli or a whole grain or something. Picture an entire Lego tower. And if I asked you as a person to piece by piece, like break it apart, it would take you several minutes. So that's kind of like what happens when you ingest a complex carbohydrate. It's like a larger molecule. that your body has to digest slowly. Whereas sugar would just be these 2 Lego pieces. Meh, and you're done. So that's kind of the difference, because there's like 3 little units, galactose, glucose, and fructose, that make up all complex carbohydrates.
I am 52 years old and I consider myself decently smart. I got a college degree. I was a personal trainer for years, ran a gym when I was younger. The Lego analogy finally broke through to this public educated brain. Thank you.
Cool. I'm glad. I have other ones too, if you want them.
I need all the simple ones. But, so here's the thing I wrote down while you were talking. You said get advice from people you trust and know and like, and that's important. And it is. So going back to old school, the one thing that I would tell clients or something, or I've been told, man, just cut back. Watch what you eat. Just if you're eating 3,000 calories, cut it back to 2,500 or 2,100. If you're eating 2,000, the whole, whatever it is. But then I start talking with people like Chasity or my buddy here in Chattanooga named Ed Jones, who owns some stuff here. And guess what? There are some people, the reason that their metabolism is shut down is because they're eating 1,000 calories a day, 800 calories a day. And if you don't know what you're doing, you could be actually getting advice from people who have good intentions, who have some degree of knowledge, but it's not the right kind of knowledge. Next thing you know, I'm eating 1,000 calories a day and I'm gaining 3 pounds and I'm starting fist fights on the road because I can't have my donuts. So, but you both have seen that. You both have talked to people and they said, someone told me to cut back, and you both are going, no, you need to fuel the fire.
Mm-hmm. I'll agree. I'll say, I bet Chasity in her like professional world, in the world with athletes, has seen that more than I have. I've seen like the opposite of, like people who need to cut back. And I bet she has seen a lot more examples like in the athletic world, and like bodybuilding and competitions. I'm sure she's seen that end of the spectrum of people under eating so much that they can't lose weight anymore. And it's true, because your metabolism shuts down, your thyroid stops working, and your body's like, shit, I'm starving, and wants to conserve everything you eat.
But Chasity, don't you find
diets don't work?
Well, but Chasity, don't you find that's the 2 different perspectives? That's why it's good when somebody needs more help than just, no one can know everything.
Oh yeah. One of the things I've noticed, it's just like it's the athletes, but it's also like the people that are looking at the athletes and they're the chronic dieters. And they thought that like 1,000 to 1,200 calories was what they needed forever. And they don't understand that that might be a diet phase, but you're not supposed to live there. You didn't need to live at 1,200 calories for the rest of your life. You probably needed to eat more, but you didn't need to add more trash. You needed to increase vegetables and good food. So it's interesting because I've seen so many people under eating that can't lose weight, and then they just keep cutting back. But I always tell people, like, one of the biggest things when they ask for advice is when someone gives you advice, make sure they ask questions of what you're doing. Like, for instance, when I give Amanda, like one of my clients, we do a consult. She has like this long list of questions. She just doesn't like walk by and say, hey, 1,200 calories and like keep going.
Even though some of them have been given that advice before. And I'm like, that's all they told you to do? Shit. Yep. There's a lot of stuff we got to cover.
Well, and
like
you can
anybody that's giving you advice, you need to make sure that they're getting information about you first before they give the advice. That means you probably can trust them a little more because they're giving you educated advice on you, not just random blanket educated information, which I love.
I do some, and I've only done a couple this year, but I used to do it more often, business, especially sales consulting. Like people would call me up and say, hey, we need help with our sales team, or I need help as a salesperson. And I could always tell when I had a client in Chasity, and both of you know, but I know Chasity a little better. So I know you've seen this, and I won't mention names. Anyway, but I would send them a questionnaire. That I have, and it's about 23 to 25 questions and it's segmented. Tell me what, when you think you're on all these different questions. And if I send it to 10 people, 6 of them go, man, I just don't have that kind of time. And I knew immediately that wasn't a good fit for me because what you're doing is you're wanting me to invest time in you, but you're not going to invest time in you. So you're not going to end up, what I'm teaching you is not going to work anyway. You're going to end up hiring another consultant 6 months later and telling people, consultants don't work.
Yep. Oh my God. Yeah, totally. I had someone recently reach out let's see, I'm trying to remember everything right. She wanted to do a keto diet so that she could lose about 15 pounds in 3 weeks, which you can do if you saw off a limb. Otherwise, it's really not possible. And said she'll refuse to eat like the meat or any dairy or cream cheese and sour cream. She only wants to eat olive oil. She only wanted to eat avocados and olive oil as her sources of fat. She had tried keto before, but could never get into ketosis. And also was using like donated food in the neighborhood. That's how she was getting her food. So she never knew what she was going to have. Can I make a meal plan for her to follow? And I'm like, yeah, let me get my magic wand out of the closet. And, like seriously, and my magic 8 ball to predict what you're going to have this week and make a plan. It was just so extreme that it's like you're asking for, what do you think is going to happen? And I was just very candid and said, well, if you tried it once before and couldn't even get into ketosis, and now you're limiting your options as you can only eat avocados and olive oil as your fat sources, what makes you think this is going to work? And you want to lose 15 pounds in 3 weeks?
That's when you just ask them to pay in advance.
You just tell
just make them pay in advance because they're not going to be happy at the end of it anyway. I need all 3 weeks from you up front. Please.
For real. And like, that's another thing about finding someone reputable is a reputable person will tell you what you're asking for isn't possible. Like, you can't just yes people to give them what they want, because sometimes what they want doesn't exist. It's like asking for a super high protein, virtually no carb vegan diet. That doesn't exist. Food you can't make food something it isn't. So
have you Chasity, take me out of it. Don't use me as an example, but have you had people not want to invest in much in them as they wanted you to invest in them?
Oh, absolutely. Over and over again.
Have you ever been down that road? I mean, seriously. I mean, I had a video earlier today where I talked to a guy I've known for a long time. He reached out to me, wanted to do one because the last 6 weeks he's kind of suffered a little bit of depression, right? And just because his world's changed. I think sometimes people hear you two experts talk about things and they go, they probably never have struggled with this. Have you ever just stopped investing in yourself, Chasity? Have you ever had moments where you're just like, you know what, screw this, I'm done, and somebody's come along and kicked your butt? Or have you always just been self-driven?
No, I always have a coach. I always have to have somebody to kick my tail. I mean, I suffer from, or have in the past, anxiety and depression. And even recently I created the Becoming FLA challenge, which is basically show the hell up and do your habits. That's all it is. Because I wasn't showing up, so I needed somebody to kick my butt. So my coaches, I was like, y'all need to show up too? Okay, let's do this every day together, because I'm not counting my macros and I'm like doing the course correction of like, oh, I'll just meet my calories, or maybe I won't count that. Or maybe I just won't diet this week, even though I'm trying to diet and trying to reach a goal. And it's crazy. So yes, I need somebody to kick my tail.
I've got a friend here that tells me blood work is super important, because and real blood work, not just the deep blood work, the micros and all that, because you got to know where you're at before you can know where you go. You guys tell people to track calories, or you probably tell them to track food, Amanda. I tell people in business to track your time. People don't understand how much time they waste every single day. And when he says you got to have a starting point, sometimes I think we as the masses, when we come to people like Chasity and Amanda, we don't really know how bad, and bad's a relative term, but we just don't know how bad and off track. Amanda, the show is yours.
Okay.
No, but I don't think it's on purpose. I think the world is so full of chaos and stress and everything. I think we tell ourselves a story and a narrative to give us some grace and mercy, because no one else kind of will. So I'm going to give myself a break. I eat a couple donuts a week. I eat 12 donuts every 3 days. I mean, but we say one thing and do another. Then they come to Amanda. Do you ask people when they start working with you to track their food or do you just start from scratch and just go that way?
In my own practice, I do ask them for a 3-day food diary. That way I can see like what they're eating. And the point of that, so I'll just say, for example, like something simple, like if you have high blood pressure, I can look at how much over the course of the day of like sodium they're eating and what potassium foods they're eating. And you get an idea of what they like. So then you can make like individual recommendations saying, all right, well, I see you like tomatoes, but you had them once this week, and then teach them like with your blood pressure, here's your sources of sodium in your diet where you could make little changes. I had someone with PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, who was by definition like a BMI, very high BMI, obese, and had like hair growth and stuff, and she was super candid, and she had been eating like her breakfast would be like 2 full glazed donuts. So almost like what you have, followed by, sorry, a little bit of shade. I had
I like it.
mince today, and like a sausage croissant breakfast sandwich. And so being able to see that, I was able to show her, oh, someone just logged on and say, I love Chastity's dog.
Yeah. Houston Shaw's a buddy of mine here, and he must have followed her. Thanks. She asked people to post pictures of her pup.
He's really cute. But I was able to say, like, if you swapped out the croissant for an English muffin on your sandwich and just did like the pack of donut holes, since she was trying to just lose weight as her primary goal, I was like, you'll save 300 to 400 calories at your breakfast, but still get like that sweet tooth indulgent, still get the savory breakfast sandwich, without having to tell someone like, never eat this stuff again.
But you know how this works. They have a little success with that, and then the next step could be, okay, let's tweak it this now. It's sometimes we put ourselves in a place to fail so much. And I know, Chastity, you've seen it too. Here's the thing. I'm just going to stop eating donuts. No, I'm not. I'm not going to stop eating donuts. What I'm going to do is I'm going to deprive myself for 10 days, and then I'm going to go on a binge.
Yep, and that's the whole point. Like, she's really good at that stuff, like the accountability, but also the freedom to not just like cold turkey quit stuff. It's called like SMART goals, right? Specific, measurable, attainable, reliable, and time bound. Because no one would ever be able to just quit something cold turkey ever. I mean, hello, I worked with people with addiction. It doesn't work that way. It's more like harm reduction. And you praise somebody who would normally feel so much shame of like maybe coming to Chas and when they're checking in and saying, I ate 3 donuts this week. And Chastity, even myself, like in my practice, would say, yeah, but last week you had 6.
Yep.
So you improved, right? We had a goal this week of only have 3 donuts and you achieved that. And then you like totally eliminate the shame that would then cause someone to go off the rails and binge and eat all this food.
I think people underestimate the power of energy and momentum. We always see it outside ourselves, but we forget that those small victories. You know, I did a video a couple of weeks ago about the highlight reels. We always watch highlight reels of athletes or bands, but we have a highlight reel of ourselves. And what happens is most of the time I found is that the highlight reel of everybody else, we always include kind of the best of. Our highlight reel is always usually at our lowest moments. So if we run a highlight reel in our own brain of ourselves, I'm the fat guy on the couch eating the donuts, or I'm the guy that's yelling at his kids when he shouldn't, or I'm the person that just blows off a meeting I know I should take because I'm sad or I'm mad or whatever. And that's our highlight reel. Yep. And we forget that we feed that with what? Either food, addictions, or a way to escape. I said some really deep stuff right there, and I think I'm right. So I think I should just stop for a second.
No, you're totally right. I mean, I could go down this rabbit hole too, but like kind of the danger of Instagram and Facebook. It's only your highlight reel. So it looks like everyone else is happier and doing cool shit all the time. And you're like, wow, I'm just home alone. Everyone else is doing something cool. It can really exacerbate those feelings. That's also why the highlight reel of like the before and after of someone's body changing, but not the in between, just like super big and like super fit. And you only see that and not the whole progression in between. Or you'll just see a picture of like, I did keto for 30 days and they have washboard abs. And you think, well, that's my solution.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you do it for 3 days and go, well, this didn't work. Like,
Chas, when somebody comes to you, because I know that you on your bio, obesity and diabetes, and I just want to say this right now. I wrote this list down just while we're talking. Do you know how many times in the last 6 months I have Googled the following? Ready? Here we go.
Ariana Grande. Oh, sorry. You
Nope.
or me? Okay.
No. It's we can get as personal as you want to, but that's a different video podcast. No, but I've Googled this: foods for, or foods that help with high blood pressure, foods that help with blood clotting, foods that help with moods, foods that help with joint pain. People, and here's what's really weird: when you start typing it in, you can tell it's a high search because it's bam.
Yeah.
This has been searched 27 million times. So people are searching for ways to quick fix my knees and joint pain and my high blood pressure. Are there quick fixes, Chastity, for your high blood pressure? Are there quick fixes?
I would say no. I wouldn't say anything that's sustainable usually isn't a quick fix. Medication usually is a quick fix.
I was going to say, right, if you have joint pain, you pop a Percocet. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, just quick fix this.
Okay, let me rephrase it. Is the quick fix always the right fix?
I would say no.
Thank you.
It might be a temporary fix while you do the things that are a long-term fix, and then you can wean yourself off of the temporary fix, depending on how hard your struggle is at the time.
But you've learned food is natural medication too. Food is natural fuel. And so when people come to you with high blood pressure, obesity, are there foods out there that are better for some of these things that we're dealing with every day? Some practical stuff for folks to take away from this. Is it true that blueberries and strawberries help with high blood pressure and with blood clotting? Is it true there's foods that make me in a better mood?
Amanda.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, so like blood pressure, for example, the two most important nutrients to look at with blood pressure is sodium and potassium. So if anyone is using like MyFitnessPal to log their food and want to add those two columns, sodium for high blood pressure, like a fair general ballpark, is about 1,500 to 2,300 milligrams a day. And all food has sodium in it, some higher than others, but basically we're getting it from anything where you add it, or like a seasoned flavor packet or packaged food. Potassium. The highest sources of potassium are things like cantaloupe, apricots, white beans, avocados, tomatoes, white potatoes, and sweet potatoes.
Not bananas?
They're not actually that high compared to those other foods.
I just had one thinking I
They're not as high. Yeah. Tomatoes, white potatoes, and sweet potatoes are up there, I think, is like the biggest ones. You mentioned blood clotting. So if you have issues where your blood does not clot, you want high vitamin K foods. So like with the blood pressure, I mentioned those vegetables and fruits. Well, if you need extra vitamin K, because it makes a protein called prothrombin that clots your blood, you need to have higher vitamin K foods. So that would be like spinach, Brussels sprouts, kale, those dark leafy green categories. If you had issues like kidney stuff is really, really complicated, but you might need, say you have kidney stones and you just came out and pissed out a wretched kidney stone and found out it's like calcium oxalate kidney stone, then you need a high calcium, low oxalate diet. So high calcium, common knowledge, it's like foods like dairy foods, even like almonds and soy and broccoli are good calcium sources, but you would have to work with someone to pick like low oxalate foods so that doesn't build up and form these stones. That list is long. I do not have that memorized. I'd have to like reference some stuff for that, but.
Chas, did you have somebody like Amanda when you were doing the World CrossFit thing? Did you have a nutritionist and dietitian to help you, or were you just going off what other people were doing?
I just had a nutrition coach. So he only did macronutrients, did not educate me on food and what food would do in my body. It was only protein, carbs, and fats.
And it worked because you did very well. Looking back, is this stuff you wish you had learned sooner? The stuff you've learned from Amanda?
It would have been very helpful to have someone. Part of the problem was I didn't tell the truth. I wasn't super authentic at the time. Some of the food I ate, I was
fearlessly authentic.
Was not fearlessly authentic at the time. I was throwing up some of my food at the time, so I would eat like random stuff and get rid of it, or I was like just, oh, I'm fat and I wouldn't eat, but I wasn't telling anybody that. And if I would have had somebody like controlling my fiber intake and the certain foods I was eating, and probably could have fed myself healthier along that path, it would have been better. So yes, that would have been
You
better.
said that, about the throwing up the food. And I said it earlier about we feed, we use food as a crutch sometimes, but both of you encounter people at different stages, a lot of times for the same reasons. And that's a lot of times it comes from our mental state more than our physical state, because the mental and physical feed off each other. I know you neither one are like mental professionals, but how do you handle that component of it when food will help them? Their habits and macros and getting active, Chasity, will help them. But there's also this mental side of it that they have to fix. And sometimes you can change a diet, but it doesn't change this.
If I can share like something a mindful thing to practice that
Mhm.
I've implemented and suggested with some of the people I work with, because a lot of my work was eating disorders. I've had a few eating disorder clients, and my background actually is like social work. For example, and this is for anyone listening who cares to try this, I'll say for those moments of like wanting to binge, that compulsion and that impulsive behavior, there's a style of therapy called DBT therapy that's really helpful for stuff like that. But when you feel that impulse to binge, usually what I'll tell someone is a mindful thing to practice, where before you go get the food, you're sitting in your chair and you ask yourself 3 things that you see. So it's to activate your senses. 3 things you see, like my TV, a picture frame, and a dresser. 3 things you feel physically. So you have to like ground yourself. I feel like a pillow against my back, the weight of the laptop on my lap, and a baby moving in my stomach. And then 3 things that you hear. So you activate senses like in order of how difficult it is to get them to work. And it disrupts that thought pattern of wanting to run to the kitchen. And even if it doesn't keep you from doing it, at least helps you break up the constant repetitive impulse. So once you start practicing that, you can sort of like fix your thoughts.
Wow, that's
And I kind of do something that's like that, but I call it a habit interrupt. And so it's like, I'll give my clients that struggle with binge disorder, or I have myself, this is the reason I did it, is because this is what I did myself. If I'm in the middle of a binge, I'll stop myself. But then if I have that urge, or even the urge to do crazy other stuff, like, oh, I need to work out more I just ate a brownie, I need to go work out more. Just whatever I'm doing inside the cycle of like binging or eating disorder or anorexia or whatever it is, I give myself 20 minutes and I do something else. So I tell them, watch something funny, pick up a book, go for a slow walk, call a friend, do something else so that you interrupt the habit in your brain, so that your brain doesn't go, I'm stressed, I eat. I have this emotion, I eat. I've never done the see, feel, hear thing, but that's amazing. That's awesome.
It's the same principle.
Would work faster.
Yeah, yours is the same thing. I've done, like, told someone when they're feeling that and they do decide to like go have Ben and Jerry's or whatever, Chubby Hubby's my favorite. You eat your ice cream, and if they're capable of measuring out a portion, I've said like set a timer for 10 minutes where you just have to sit and wait to break. You're saying break the habit, but it's like breaking the thought process. So you interrupt it so it discontinues.
Right. that process works. Now that you're saying that, I did another podcast a couple of weeks ago. We were talking about how you talk with people, and the people that we don't know, like on a professional level, it's kind of, I don't mean it's easy, but if somebody that's on a professional relationship gets mad at you, it's real kind of easier to keep your cool. Because you can kind of, oh, I understand. I hear what you're saying. And if I'm correct, blah, 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 blah. But if it's somebody you love and is close to you and they push your button, it is really easy to bite their head off and spit it in the garbage and verbally and so we were talking about that. And he said he got in the habit of just saying, hey, just give me a second. Somebody's talking and they're getting in there, da-da-da, to your wife or your boyfriend, your girlfriend, kid, whatever. And you go, hey, just give me 1 second. And then just sit there. And if they keep on, just, hey, I just need 1 second. And whether you walk out of the room or, hey, I want to talk. I got to finish this, but give me 1 second. And the second's for you, because that is his cue to himself that I am about to say something I'm going to regret. And there's a lot of going on behind there, but in his world, the give me 1 second for him was, even if he had to fake a phone call. He said, do you know how many times I faked a phone call with my significant other because I want to talk, but he said I needed a break because I could feel my veins coming out. And he said, and it's really helped his relationship, because by the time he rejoins it, most of the time, both parties are a little more, it's the emotion has left the room a little bit. And he's not said, yeah, well, at least you're not like your fat aunt or something like that. Now he's got that fight, now he's got that fight he's got to deal with, or your drunk uncle or something. And then I asked him, I said, do you say that a lot? And he goes, it might've been a little personal. I said, good gosh, man. Yeah, you did need to take a second, didn't you? I wrote down when you were talking about, we'll go back. We've talked about high blood pressure, and you've given some stuff about obesity, but touching on the stuff that Chasity does with the sports nutrition. Let's go back to that world. Do you help people with sports nutrition as well, Amanda, or is that something you kind of hand off to somebody else?
I have. I'll say that the level of intervention and like specific recommendations aren't as imperative with an athlete as it is with someone with like a kidney problem or something. So really, it's like there are some things that matter, but that's more Chasa's specialty than working with athletes. I think people would see me and be like, really, you with athletes? Sure. And then they look at her and they're like, oh, obviously this makes perfect sense. Like, girl has muscles. So a few things matter, but it's stuff Chas knows too, like nutrient timing, like when you want to do the window of like carbon protein before and after workouts. So a little bit of fluid stuff that you can do, adding a little sodium to your water, looking at like how actually with athletes, meat and chicken and stuff to get like the extra branch chain and essential amino acids matter. So some stuff like that, but not as much as other things. So I'd pass that one off to someone who is in the sports world, because I don't know what it's like to work out really hard.
And I'll throw this to both of you. I'll throw it to both of you, but you can, whoever wants to go first. Have you had clients that started off on X number of medications that have worked their way off of it due to the diet part of it?
Yes. Yes.
Is that feel good? It feels good, doesn't it?
Yes. Although I can't take credit, because you can lead a horse to water, but will they eat the vegetable? You can teach people and counsel people and give them advice, but they have to take it. So there is someone in particular from the HIV center, actually, who was type 2 diabetic. What's interesting is before you get diagnosed with type 2, many people will lose weight very quickly. I know that seems backwards, right? But when your blood glucose, like your glucose is stuck in your bloodstream and can't get to the muscle, your muscle catabolizes itself and you start wasting, and then you end up like feeding off ketones. So you'll end up losing weight and being really, really thirsty and sweating a lot. So anyways, he got diagnosed his A1C, which is something called your glycosylated hemoglobin. It's like how you measure blood sugar in your bloodstream over the course of 3 months, because hemoglobin and glucose form a chemical bond. His A1C was in the 14s, which is basically like he was a walking corpse. He shouldn't have been alive. It's crazy, because normal is under 5.6. And yeah, we did some work together and he took it. It scared him to death almost. And he took my recommendations so seriously and wasn't on medications anymore by the end of our work together, had lost a significant amount of weight, started eating more low glycemic index foods, and his A1C went eventually down to like 5.4, I want to say. So he had to feel good, but I was happy for him. He did it. Mm-hmm. Right. He did it.
I got a buddy, the Ed Jones guy I referred to quite a bit. Yeah. He did a podcast and he's on my radio show. I think it was 2 years ago. Our local paper ran an article that said in a given year, the average Tennessean is on and off about 17 to 70 different medications in a year. And Yeah. And so when people come to you, Amanda, or to you, Chastity, and they have issues and you're like, man, and they tell you, I've got off that medication. It's got to be a good feeling. I know they have to do the work, but they can't do the work until somebody teaches them what they got to do.
That's true. And
Yeah.
you know what? I'll just say, just as like a ethical and professional plug, is if you are someone who's on a lot of medications, it's worth running it by either like your doctor or a dietitian or someone, because, like, for instance, right, I learned with working with the residential kids who take antipsychotic meds, Abilify and Risperidone, and for people who are bipolar and stuff, if you take Tums 2 hours before or after taking your meds, it negates the meds and they don't work. So there's all these things that you can't pretend you know. Like, I didn't know that, and unless you were taught, so it's that keeps you from giving poor advice.
But isn't that Chastity, how you talking about? That's a team effort. You got your doctor, you got you're that's a team effort.
Well, and the funny thing, just for example, what you just said, I was on Abilify. I used to take it because my doctor said, and my mom's been on it too. You're bipolar 2. My mom was bipolar 1, and both of us had eating disorders. We used to eat Tums like crazy because we also thought that was like the problem. The problem was that we had an eating disorder and we would like throw up our food or not eat or whatever we were doing. So we would take Tums, but then even that was probably negating the Abilify that we were using, but nobody ever told us that.
Yeah. It's crazy. I mean, there's a lot of foods or a lot of meds. You can't have grapefruit.
Yeah.
It like dumps extra medication into your bloodstream because of this one enzyme grapefruit has. And that's why, for anyone who's out there as a customer or a patient looking for coaching, just look out for that too. Do they know what they're talking about, or are they willing to say when they're not comfortable and willing to admit what you don't know?
When somebody says they don't know, it makes me respect them more. I don't know, but I'm going to go find somebody that does.
Yes.
Let's collaborate.
So that you don't take a risk with somebody's health.
No. That's why I've had so many people even ask me, they're like, but wait, she has her own practice. Like, how does that? And I'm like, there's 8 billion people in the world. We want to help as many as we can. If she and I work together, then we can help more people. Who cares where they end up or who pays and all that? We want to help people. That is our goal. And she knows a lot of things I have no idea about. And she doesn't want to deal with some of the people that I really want to talk to. And vice versa. I'm like, that laundry list of medications, I have no idea. You need to speak to Amanda. She's going to be your new dietitian.
Or even I'll say like, oh shit, I don't know that one. You got to go back to your doctor before I give you any advice.
Yeah.
I noticed neither one of you are using me as a reference. Like, nobody's calling Clint for that problem. So that's
business. We'll call you for business.
Nah, it's okay.
Yeah, I don't know much about that.
Glycemic index, real quick. I got 2 more questions. We'll play our little game. We'll get you guys off because I know this has been a longer one. Thank you for your patience, by the way.
Yeah, sure.
Glycemic index. I know Chastity has mentioned that on one of the group calls we did, coaching calls, and I'm kind of familiar with it because, again, back 25, 30 years ago, the glycemic index was new. That was new stuff for us. You eat low, this happens. You eat high. So can you, in a thumbnail sketch, tell people what the glycemic index is and how it can help or hurt their diet, please?
Yeah, let me just Google it really quick. It's how much a food will raise your blood sugar in comparison to a reference food. And the standard reference food is like a piece of bread. So per 100 grams of this food, how much will it raise your blood sugar? So
and
something
high and low.
Something like, so high means it will raise your blood sugar very high and very quickly, and low means it will raise it less. So something like pineapple and honeydew melon and like Sour Patch Kids, high glycemic index, meaning it raises your blood sugar very dramatically, whereas like a nice big bowl of farro, lower glycemic index, doesn't raise it as high.
Basically, food you like, high glycemic index.
Totally.
You don't like, in America, low glycemic index.
And we want to aim for low, right?
Correct. Exactly. Yeah. I'd say the only situation where you would want like sugar, high glycemic index, is if you're running a marathon and need need blood glucose very quickly. But many of us don't work out hard enough to need to do that.
When you look at the
CrossFit athletes.
CrossFit athletes would, like, that makes sense. Those
triathlons.
Totally. Yes.
I do another podcast called Dayfire Podcast about outdoor adventure, and we get a lot of endurance ultra marathons, people that are running 100 miles. Those folks need the high glycemic index foods. But is it a standard reference of 100 and then 100, less than 100 is low and above 100 is high? Or is that not the case? Or is that just false on my part? It's false.
I think it's between. Yeah, no, I think you're right. It's like lower glycemic index is like 30 to 40.
Okay.
Medium glycemic index is up to 60 to 70, and then about like 70 to 100.
Why do my joints hurt so bad, Amanda? We can act like Chastity's not on this call. I need help with what foods I should eat to make my hips and knees stop hurting, please.
Oh God.
Fix me. This was just a cheap way for me to.
In a nutshell, get some nice omega-3 fats and some selenium and vitamin E. They're big antioxidants, which help. Pain is usually a sign of inflammation. So those are some nice anti-inflammatory foods, and the omega-3. So just think like that keto lady, just start drinking glasses of olive oil and you'll be fine.
Okay, but this is going to be me and Chastity. I've said this on the group call. I actually take a teaspoon or two every morning of extra virgin olive oil in the morning and at night, and I have omega-3s, but I just shoot it I just shoot the apple cider vinegar too I just shoot that too. No one else, I put it in my coffee, but nobody else can just shoot that stuff. And I'm like, just do it. It's over with quick. So anyway.
The cheese stands alone on that one, my friend. I'm not really going to end up taking shots of olive oil.
It's not bad at all. It's not bad at all. Okay, so
I have a question. Amanda, would you say sleep would be something that could help him?
Of course it would be.
Sleep. I had it right there to ask.
I mean, that's where you I'm no sleep expert or anything, but like that's where you recover.
Told you.
I couldn't hear you. I'm sorry. Hey, I've been doing better.
They're static.
I've been doing better. I'm getting I'm doing better. 5 hours last night. So that's good. Normally I'm 3 to 4 hours.
And he wonders why he hurts. I'm like, you have to sleep.
All right, Clint. Well, here, I'll give you this personalized nutrition tip. When cherries come in season, buy up a bunch of them and start eating them before you go to bed.
Cherries?
Yep. It's high in melatonin.
And fresh, because I've got a melatonin tablet I take, but you just the fresh cherries, you can't just go get them. Okay. All right. There you go. I like that. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Do me before we play our quick little game, I need, because you have a brand new website, Chastity. If you don't mind, tell people how to find you, and then Amanda, tell people how to find you if they want to ask you some questions. Sure. And we're going to play a fun little quick game, and then I'll let you both. You can go back to watching whatever you're watching, and Chastity can go back to walking her dog 1,000 times a day.
My website is the flamovement.com, or you can find me on Instagram, Chastity Snowden _FLA, and then Facebook is Chas Snowden Coaching. And yeah, if you want to see her credentials, they're actually on my website too. But you have your own website too, right?
Yes. Mine is nutritionistinboston.com, and don't feel limited by the fact that it's Boston, because right now, especially with COVID, licensing laws are a little bit looser, and so and everyone's allowing telehealth. So I accept Blue Cross Blue Shield, Harvard Pilgrim, and Tufts Health Plan, so I can actually counsel people, and it's paid through their insurance depending on your policy. So telehealth across state lines is now green lit. So
that's awesome.
I'm here.
And if somebody missed that, because you froze up a little bit, her link is in the description, so you can just click on the link to her website. And it's also, Chastity, I've got yours, but I always like for people to say it too, so people can go, oh, I'm going to go Google that right now. All right. Are we ready to play this quick little game? There's only 3 or 4 questions.
Okay.
Okay.
What is your go-to cheat food?
Chastity's is probably kale.
At least I don't. Well, haters are going to hate on that one, aren't they? I think that's the bumper sticker. That's the appropriate bumper sticker.
It's funny because I don't consider any of my foods cheating.
Oh, stop it. Okay. What's the one food, Chastity, you would eat too much of and you would throw the macros out for? What's the one food that would be your downfall?
It's going to be fruit. Dried fruit, like bowls of pineapple.
I will
acai
X you out of this
bowls.
video right now.
I know.
I will.
I literally, but you don't understand the amount of fruit. Like I would start my day with a watermelon, then eat a whole pineapple, then eat a bag of entire dried mangoes, then have a bowl of cherries or a bag of cherries, an entire bag of grapes. Like if I could do that every day, I would love it. And I kind of did because I was a fruitarian for a while. That was really
all right, well, I'm going to up the ante.
Save me.
M&M McFlurries. I love McFlurries. It's so funny for like, as much as I value food integrity and homemade food and stuff, I love McDonald's vanilla soft serve. I love their McFlurries. I could eat one every day.
Okay.
Their soft serve is really good.
So good.
Have either one of you ever had the vanilla Oreos?
No. Ew.
Oh, God.
No.
So good.
I would have a Vienna finger if I was going to go vanilla.
No,
Oreo.
just try it. Just try the Oreo before you hate on it. It's stupid. And they make these thin ones too that are perfect to dip in your coffee. Not that I've done that recently. I'm just saying if I were to cheat, that would be what
But if I had one food to eat all day long and calories and macros and nothing counted, it would definitely be a Dunkin' Donut, not a Dunkin' Donuts, Krispy Kreme donuts. The hot and ready, but just hot and ready all day long.
Yeah.
They just melt in your mouth. Those are my favorite.
Now we're talking my kind of podcast. All right. If you only could have one of these, would you rather be superpower? Would you rather be super strong or the ability to fly?
What if you are Chasity and you're already super strong? That eliminates one of the choices.
Well, then she can just fly. How about you, Amanda? Which one do you want?
Why?
Fly. Chasity?
I want to fly because I've already been strong and it comes and goes.
If you could be a pro athlete, this is a great one. I see, and this is me putting these down before I even had this conversation. If you could be a pro athlete in any sport or outside of CrossFit, in any sport, but you could be a pro athlete, what sport would it be?
I would be Beyonce.
So the sport of entertaining.
Oh my God, she's like the best dancer ever. And Sierra too. Oh my God, to dance like that, 100%. Totally.
MC Hammer was a pretty good dancer. That's my guy. But go ahead, Chastity. What pro sport?
It's so hard for me because I don't watch any sports. The only sport I even kind of watch is CrossFit. That's it.
So there's one called basketball where you hold this orange thing that looks like this. It's a sphere, and you bounce it up and down on the ground, and it goes into a basket.
I genuinely loved basketball. It would probably be basketball, but they just don't make enough for women. And it pisses me off that women make less than men. And it's much more boring to watch women because they're not as good as the men. So, yeah.
All right, here we go. This is we'll make this the last question because I feel like if Chastity doesn't come up with something a little outrageous soon, I'm going to get pissed off. Oh, I eat too much watermelon and I don't watch TV. I don't know. I'd like
Oh my God. I love Netflix.
Yes, thank you. Finally, something I can relate to. All right, what's on your workout playlist or what's your music you're listening to right now? What's something, and if you've something new that you want to give a shout out to that you've gotten over the last 6 weeks of quarantine, what's on your playlist there, Chastity, when you're working out?
You're going to hate me. He
probably listens to podcasts.
I like to listen to preaching. Thank you, Chastity, for making us feel evil.
I actually listen to books and podcasts, but my music playlist, what's it called? The Greatest Showman. I listen to that over and over again on Spotify. So it's like
The Greatest Showman. Is that the movie, the actor? That's what you listen to work out? There's no Godsmack, Metallica, EPMD?
No, it's all like super happy, like Disney kind of feel. Like I can see people dancing around.
I don't even know you anymore. I don't even know you anymore.
It's okay, Jess, because I really like the burlesque soundtrack with Christina Aguilera and Cher.
Yes, that.
Oh my God, Express, burlesque, Show Me How You Burlesque, those songs, and I like make up dances and shimmy my tits and stuff while I'm working out.
See, it's musicals. I love musicals. I know.
Well,
I was gonna say I listen to actually like TLC, Mariah Carey, MC Hammer.
I just keep forgetting how much older I am right now. That I keep wanting to go, some ZZ Top and Van Halen. Who are they and why are you Why is the old
I know
man
who
on the
they
screen?
are, but I don't listen to them.
CC Top. Oh my God, she's got legs. She knows how to use them.
Thank you very much, because she loves a sharp dressed man. Thank you for knowing that. I appreciate it. All right, so we got your websites up. I appreciate the conversation and the tips and the strategies, and a shout out to anybody that's watching this down the road. If you've got questions, I would assume if they've got questions, you don't mind them just reaching out and saying, hey, can you help me? You'll take it from there. Both of you are open to help, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Amanda. And you lived up to the bill, and you're a genius, and you were funny.
Okay, that's great. Oh
Yep.
my God. And next time I'll be like in good shape too, so I can have like the Holy Trinity trifecta, but no one's going to see me from the neck down right now.
Why do you think I wear black every time I do this? They say it makes you thin, so I just wear the black. Chastity, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye everybody.
Everyone.
Y'all have fun. See y'all.